All right, friends, welcome. It is week 3. Can you guys believe you're halfway done? You really have, well, actually a little bit more than halfway because you really only have like a week and a half until until you're kind of done, right? Until you have, oops, sorry, until you have to turn everything in. So congratulations, you've made it. This is your 4th week of coding coming from Python Basic or Programming Basics. So very, 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 very well done. You should be really proud of yourselves for how far you've gotten. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Discussion questions are due Sunday. And just a reminder, if you miss a discussion question, so let's say it's Monday, right? And you're like, hey, I'm trying to do last week's discussion questions. Those close every week. And so week 1 closed on Sunday of week 1. Last week's closed this past Sunday. This week's will close, and you can't retroactively go back and try to do discussion questions. That's like the one thing you can't retroactively go do. And so if you miss it, unfortunately, you just miss them. Now, obviously, if you've got some sort of circumstance that has prevented you from doing that, then not just like, oh, I forgot, but hey, I was in the hospital, or hey, I was this happened, then obviously please feel free to reach out and we can kind of talk and work with you there. But if you just forgot, then unfortunately those do close. Now, as a reminder, you can only miss, I believe, 2 of them. So if you miss 1 week, you can't miss any more. And that includes week 4, and we'll have those on week 4. So just a reminder, please make sure you do your discussion questions. We had a great talk in office hour. Christina had a really funny joke that said the discussion questions have got us discussing. So I just feel like she should be shouted out because I thought it was very funny. So there you go. So make sure discussion questions are done because they do close. You can't go back and do like week 1 or week 2. Cool. You've got some core assignments due Sunday. Let's look at it. Let's look at our class sheet and see what do we got. Actually, you don't. Sorry. You don't have any core assignments, right? After the yellow belt? Oh, no, you do. You have push to GitHub. That's your 1 core assignment that's due this week, which we're going to talk about today and tomorrow. We're going to do a part 1 today where I'm going to really I'm really going to focus on terminal basics. We're going to maybe talk about the theory of Git and GitHub. And if we get to it, but I really want our focus. I want you guys coming out of this class to be super duper confident in your terminal, because it is something that you're going to use for every class moving forward. So I want you to start getting confident, and I want you guys to follow along with me if you can. If you have the ability, I want you to follow along, be able to ask questions in class. It's something, not anything you have to download or anything, but it is a tool that you will absolutely use. Cool. So you just have that 1 core assignment, the push to GitHub. That's it. But you still have discussion questions. I don't know. This says 3 discussion questions, and it's just trying to say that it's due. Again, you only have 2 of them for that. Cool. Just as a reminder, this upcoming weekend is your last weekend to do a belt exam. So in last day to start one is Tuesday. I've got a great question in the chat about the exam. After they are turned in and graded, will we get feedback on what we can improve on? Yes, you will. So it will look, if I go to login, it'll look like this. And I want to give a huge shout out to Christina. You guys that have taken the exam, Christina has been an incredible rock star. You guys genuinely do have the best TA in the program. Don't tell my other favorite TAs that too, but Christina has been amazing. So all exams are graded up to this point. If you turn it in before like 4 o'clock PST today, Christina has done them and has crushed it. So really huge shout out to Christina, and she is the best. So don't want anybody to not think that, even though I don't think anybody didn't think that, because she has rocked this entire time. Cool. So your feedback will look something like this. You'll get something that looks like this. You'll get something that looks like this, and then it at the bottom will have some comments, and especially if it's coming from Christina because she's a ball of joy and really excited, then it'll be something super positive probably. And so you'll get comments, and if there is things that you can improve upon, they'll be there. So you'll just I don't want to show anybody's, but it'll have like a little comment section right here that'll have some comments for you. So you will get feedback on those as well. So you will get feedback on your exam, and we're going to go through again all of this stuff, and we will, you can use this to say, and at the end of your exam, go through and say, okay, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? Because this is exactly what we're using to a T. There's not like any other secret things. So please make sure that you do that. Okay. I wanted to give just a personal check-in, and you guys are halfway through this course. A lot of you have already taken the exam and or gotten a code today. I did go through this afternoon, and everybody that had availability or had enough assignments, I went ahead and just sent you a code. Thank you for your patience. As you can, kind of imagine, there's a pretty high volume of emails. So I've been trying to work through it, and I'm trying to get like a 24-hour turnaround time. So I appreciate it. I appreciate your sentiment and kindness. But I wanted to just see a check-in, like, scale of 1 to 10. How are you doing? How are you feeling? And before you put it, so don't anybody put this in the chat yet. I want you to think about when you first started, either 4 weeks ago with programming basics, or maybe even just this course, what you knew, because it's really easy to be like, oh man, I'm not doing very well. Oh, this is hard. But saying, okay, what do you understand or sort of understand? Maybe there's some things that are a little bit iffy, a little bit rocky. But what do you understand now compared to when you started this class, when you started this program? And thinking about all of that, how are you feeling personally about coding and understanding stuff? So if you guys could put in the chat anywhere between 1 and 10, 1 being like, this sucks and I'd never want to do this again. I'm not understanding anything. This is tough. Or 10 being like, hey, I am, crushing it. I'm loving it. It's coming easy to me. I like what we're doing. I like where we're at. So if you guys just in the chat, kind of give me a feeling of how you guys are doing. Great. Yeah, lots of numbers. And I think that that's great. I'm not seeing anything. I think the only thing that would be, if you were out of 1, then I would say, hey, it's probably a good thing to reach out to myself. I don't see any ones. Lots of numbers that are great. But if you were at maybe a 1, feel free to reach out to Christina and I. We want to make sure that we're helping you get on a path to feeling more confident in yourself, because oftentimes you know a lot more than you think. And again, that's why I stated, when you think back about what did you know before you started and what do you know now, oftentimes it's really easy to lose sight of how much you've learned, right? It's like I'm training for a marathon currently, and I remember I was like kind of down because I was only running, like I keep hitting this brick at 9.5 miles is when I am starting to get tired. And I've been getting really down lately. And then I was scrolling through my phone and I saw a screenshot that I sent my wife. I actually saw a message, and it said, whoa, look how far I ran and how fast I've run. This is incredible. And I had run 2 miles at like a 10.5 mile pace, or like a sub 10 mile pace, which is not super duper fast, it's not slow, but I remember I was jazzed because I'd run 2 miles. And over here, it's like, man, 9.5 miles. Oh, what's wrong with me? And sometimes it's just good to be like, oh man, I started here though. So this is actually lots of like gain and lots of success, and lots of, not necessarily success, but like I've gotten better at this. That's great. You still push yourself. But again, just whenever you're tired or wherever you're exhausted or things don't make sense, look back at where you started and see your growth, because that is going to be really, really helpful for this. It's always going to be hard. It's going to be hard. I heard a quote this past, and this is not just an entire class of me trying to jazz you guys up, but I heard a quote that said, "You're going to have regret." Um, you have two options, right? You're either going to regret doing something, or oh, I guess I don't even remember what it was. It was like you're gonna be tired from trying something, or you're gonna regret not trying something, right? But either way, you got one of the options is true, right? And so you guys are doing it. You are trying to learn a new language, a new skill. It is challenging, so keep it up. Um, Always kind of be kind to yourself and keep checking back and saying, "Wow, I learned more than I did yesterday," and that's a win. That's a huge win because this is a journey for the rest of your lives. So yeah, exactly, Joshua. If it was easy, everyone would do it, and you wouldn't be making the big bucks. That's the best advice I got from uh, a mentor whenever I was first learning how to code. When I was super mad about it. Yeah. So great job. You guys should just be encouraged. You're already halfway through this course. So cool. Belt exam codes. I have sent all codes for everybody that was eligible. So again, just as a reminder, not that those who didn't receive a code, I was a little bit lagged getting them out, but please send me an email when you're ready. I'm not always going to be checking every day. So send me an email, and I'm trying to work through it as fast as I can. And I'm trying to do at least a maximum of 24-hour turnaround for that. Cool. Any questions on housekeeping thoughts? Just want to say anything about the personal check-in or how proud of yourself you are, anything like that? I see a lot of stuff in chat. You guys are crushing it. And also just, it is not, I remember the days of having to balance things. So it is tough to balance. So just don't be like, oh, I'm a failure. I'm the type of person that always thinks if I'm not doing something, if I'm not always working, I'm failing. That's not at all the case. It is a lot to balance, and just really it is. It's hard, right? So you guys are doing something most people would quit at. So be proud of yourself. Thomas, no, I'm actually running a marathon. So running it in November. It's gonna be the worst, but here we are. Yeah, you are on a marathon. That is a fact. That is a fact. Learning how to code and being a developer is a marathon. I still learn stuff all the time, guys. And I still, just so you know, have feelings of it's called imposter syndrome, where I have feelings of inadequacy, or I see other people who are like on LinkedIn or Twitter and they're doing that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they know way more than me. I'm not a good developer. I still have that. And I've been doing this for 3 years. So just know that it's like, if you're feeling that, it's okay. A lot of people feel that. There's a whole syndrome called imposter syndrome dedicated to that feeling. So you're not, and I just say that to say, like, there's nothing wrong with you. That's a really common feeling and emotion. Yeah, I mean, lots of people have to Google stuff. Cool. Any other thoughts or questions on that before we get going into today's topic? I usually like to take today's topic pretty light as well, especially coming off a weekend of stress and anxiety and exams. And you guys are in this exam season, so I don't try to like drill you with new information. Try to take it slow for these next couple of classes. Yeah. Oh gosh, your dad would probably outrun me. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and jump in. I want to talk about this idea of the terminal. Now, one thing I want to know, or I want to notate, is that I am on a Mac computer, right? I'm on a Mac computer, and some of these, if you're on a Windows, some of what I'm going to do is going to be different. There is this great chart here that when I say something, I'm going to say some sort of command like ls or cd. And what this is this is a good website to kind of look and say, if I say, so I'm on Unix, right? That's sort of Linux and Mac are on Unix. and this is Windows. Just know that if I say something like, let's say like RM, we're going to talk about removing. For Windows, it's going to be del for delete, right? If I say ls, it's dir for Windows. So please make sure that you have that conversion. I've just put that in the chat for everybody. So if I say something and you're trying to follow along with me, but you're on a Windows and I'm on a Mac and you type ls, it's going to say, I have no idea what that means. And then this is also, some of these are like, they give definitions. So, okay. So does anybody know, let's start with, what is the terminal? Or before we get started, does anybody know what a GUI is? A GUI, not just like a description of something like sticky. Anybody know what a GUI is? A GUI? Sounds like a snack. Yeah, Jacob, it's a graphical user interface. Yeah. Anybody give me an example? What on my computer, what would be a GUI? It's just kind of out of the box. If I'm trying to navigate my computer, what's a great way? What's sort of like a GUI? Yeah, the icons, right? Great job, Roberta. So you can think about it, if you're on your desktop, mine's not showing. I don't know, I'm on this new beta and I kind of hate it. But here, right, this is a GUI, right? I've got all of these different things, all these different folders, and this is just a user interface that I can use that has graphics, graphical user interface, that allows me to navigate my computer, right? And if I wanted to go into our web fundamentals, I could double click. I go into week 3, double click, here's our lecture, perfect, right? I'm able to navigate through my computer using this GUI or graphical user interface. And that's fine. You can do that. You can get away with that. That's no big deal. Now, that being said, there's other ways that we can navigate through our computer. And the main way that we're going to deal with is something called the terminal. So if you are on if you're on a Mac, what you're going to do, get rid of this, is you're going to command spacebar. That's going to bring up your Spotlight search, and you're just going to say terminal. If you are on a Windows, you have a couple different options. Command prompt is one that I would say to utilize. So search for command prompt. There's another one called PowerShell that you could use. I think command prompt's a little bit easier, and it's better, especially if you're going to go to Python. So kind of do that. Or the last one is one called Bash that you would have to download. So don't worry about that. Just know that there is a capability of doing basically what I'm doing. If you just download Bash, then you can do my same commands and not have to deal with, the conversion. But they're both are doing the same. Okay. So when I open it up, here's what I get. Can anybody guess what is this trying to say? What is this? What's going on here? ID tag. Yeah, okay. What this is doing is this is saying, well, where am I at? Right? This is what we call our location. And so if we're looking at the terminal, I guess before we jump into kind of navigating this, let's talk a little bit of theory. Sorry about that. Why do we need to know this? You might be asking yourself, this seems like a waste of time. I'd rather go over JavaScript or do something like that. The terminal is something that you will use, or being able to, or have the ability to navigate your computer in a way that you don't have to click, but you can just navigate via the terminal, will be a crucial tool for you for many reasons. First and foremost is because when you're dealing with the cloud, or when you're dealing with a server or a computer that's not this actual computer, but you're somewhere else, oftentimes you don't have a visual representation of that computer, right? All you're going to have is something like this. All you're going to have is something like this. So we need to make sure that we know how to navigate. So that way, if I'm trying to utilize AWS, or I'm trying to utilize Azure or GCP or my own, it's called on-premise, when my company has its own servers, it's called on-premise. When I'm trying to do that, I'm not going to have some nice, beautiful window that I can just like click on a folder and then say, okay, go here, then go here. I'm going to have to navigate it this way. So that's first and foremost. The second reason is each stack that you're going into, doesn't matter if you are Python or Java or JavaScript/MERN, you're going to have to utilize the terminal in order to create projects. There's going to be files that are downloaded, NPM packages for JavaScript that's going to take forever to run, especially if you're using React. But you're going to have to do certain things on the terminal. And so I want you to become familiar and to practice these next 2 weeks. So that way, when you go into your class, you're not going to be overwhelmed and you're not going to be nervous, or you're not going to be sort of, I don't understand what's going on here. Now, well, you'll kind of get to that. So I'm not going to show you like how to create a project in Python or create a environment in Python or JavaScript or Java. But I do want to kind of help you get familiar, and so that way you have an understanding of what's going on. So that's the why, right? We want to be able to navigate our computer. Instead of being able to click on things, I want to navigate via the terminal, because I need to use that for my upcoming classes and creating projects and interacting with languages and different packages. And then number two is, on the job, you're going to do this, right? You're going to have to navigate. And especially if you go for a black belt on any of the languages, you're going to have to navigate AWS, and you're going to have to get it what we call hosted, meaning that some other computer is going to have your code, running your code. So that way, anywhere somebody in the world, wherever they are, can go to a website with this IP address and interact with your website, right? And the only way we're going to be able to do that is through the terminal, right? Through the terminal. AWS is not, it has a lot of click and go, but to actually get your code, you need it through the terminal. Cool. Now, that's the why. Any questions on why? Any questions on like the why here? Any thoughts? Put a 1 in the chat if this kind of is making sense. Put a 0 if it does not. Perfect. Okay. So what is the terminal? Well, you can sort of think of the terminal as a just a whole bunch of paths, right? A whole bunch of locations. And we have to go step by step and say, okay, I want you to go here, then I want you to go here, then I want you to go here. And it navigates our computer, and it navigates folders, and it navigates files, and it can do certain things for us. And it's a tool for navigation, right? And you can sort of think about it this way. Google Maps and or Apple Maps, if you put it in, it will have a visual representation of how to get to a place, right? Where it kind of follows you and it says, okay, you can sort of see your road and it's blue, and okay, I need to veer right. Great. Now, you can have that. That's sort of like your GUI, your graphical user interface, where you're visually interacting with your maps. Now, there's another option where you can sort of slide that, and it just has the list of directions, right? Okay, turn right here. Turn right here. Turn, take a left here. And it just tells you the street, and it just tells you what to do, right? It's not visual. It's just a whole bunch of directions or kind of different steps in order to navigate that. You can sort of think about the terminal as that second portion where we don't have this visualization. It's just navigating via like directions. Cool. Okay. So what we're going to talk about, and the way that the terminal operates, is we have these paths, and this is just a computer, right? And so this is where everything is located, or everything that is located has some sort of path. So if I'm looking at, and the path is just basically a way that you can say it's the breadcrumbs to finding a folder or finding a file. So if I click this and I click week 1, let's do week, yeah. Let's go July 23rd. and week 3 and lecture 1. Okay, my path for this, let me make this a little bit bigger for you. Or I guess I can't. Rip. My path is in my iCloud drive. I've got a folder called desktop. Within my desktop, I've got a folder called Coding Dojo. Within Coding Dojo, I've got a folder called Instruction CD. Within Instruction CD, I've got a July 23rd Web Fund. Within Web Fund, July 23rd Web Fund, I've got a folder called Week 3. And within Week 3, I've got a folder called Lecture 1. This is my path. Saying that, hey, if you're starting from the root part of my files, if you want to get all the way to Lecture 1, just in the same way when we use Google Maps, it doesn't just say, okay, here's this, right? It says, no, take a right here, take a left here, take a left here, go straight for 2 miles, take a right. This is saying, okay, if you want to get into Lecture 1 from my iCloud drive, I need you to go into desktop. When you go into desktop, look for a folder called Coding Dojo, go into it. When you go into Coding Dojo, look for a folder called Instruction CD. Once you find it, go into it. Look for a folder called July 23rd Web Fund. Once you find it, enter in. Once you enter in, look for a folder called Week 3, go there. Then once you are in Week 3, I want you to navigate to Lecture 1. And then in there is going to be a file called Class Overview. This is my path for this specific file. It's just the directions, right? It's just for my computer, say, go here, 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 and you'll find it. We can do the same thing. So this is a visual representation, but the same sort of methodology, the same sort of thought process can work. So on our terminal, we can navigate and we can go into this file, and we're going to navigate to this specific file right now using our terminal. So when you start, you're going to start kind of at the top, right? Oops. I'm going to start the same sort of way. We are here, right? We're at the beginning. So what do I need to navigate? First and foremost, again, I can't just skip to this file. Where do I need to go from here?
Desktop.
Yeah, my desktop. Exactly. So the way that we navigate via our terminal is we use something called CD. Now, if you are on, I think you're on Windows, it's the same thing, right? What CD stands for is change directory. Oh my gosh, is change directory. Now, just know that a folder, and it's not called a folder in terminal or in computer, right? It's called a directory. And so I'm changing from where I'm at, my PWD, which is my present working directory. I'm currently in users in William Calhoun. And I want to change into my desktop. So I say CD, so change directory. And then where do I want to go? I say desktop. And I press enter. And now you can see that I'm in my desktop. And if I say PWD, present working directory, now you can see my path is I'm currently here, right? I went from here into my desktop. Now, where else do I need to go? I now need to go into Coding Dojo. So I'm going to CD into, D into coding. Now, one little trick is if you know that it's going to be unique or you're looking through something, you can just press tab. So if I just put C and I press tab, it's going to pull up everything that starts with a C. But I can say, okay, CO, there's nothing else with CO. So if I tab, it's going to autocomplete for me, which is elite. So now, cool, I'm in Coding Dojo. And maybe let's say I forgot, like, what was this? What I can do is I can look at my, I can look and say what is currently available in Coding Dojo by saying ls. Now on Windows, I believe it's dir for directory, right? So ls says, okay, here's everything that is currently in my Coding Dojo folder. I've got my resume, got a scholarship, project I worked on, some other junk, super secret key, MERN training. I don't know. I don't know what half this stuff is. But I remember, oh, I need to go to my instruction CD. So now that I know and can navigate, how would I navigate into instruction CD? If I want to go into my instruction directory, my instruction CD directory, how would I change from where I'm currently at Coding Dojo into, yeah, exactly. I'm going to CD, right? I'm going to CD into instruction CD. Perfect. Now I'm in there. I can see, what do I have access to? Cool. I've got access to a lot of stuff. I see. I need July 23rd. I'm going to CD into July. It wasn't unique enough because I had June or July. So it's saying, hey, you just put JU. Which one is it? I just put L. Now, there we go. I say LS. What do I have available? I want to go into week 3. So I CD into week 3. LS. I've only got one folder, so I'm going to CD into lecture 1. And then LS, I've got my class overview file. So if I say PWD, you can see that my current directory is, this is where I started. I went into desktop, into Coding Dojo, into instruction CD, into July Web Fund, week 3, my lecture 1. And I have access to my class overview if I wanted to do something with it. It's the same thing, right? It's the same sort of pathway. I'm just approaching it in a different way. Okay. Now this is kind of jumbled. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type clear, and it makes it look a lot nicer. Now, if I forget what I'm doing, I can always just scroll up. It's still there. Doesn't delete it. It just makes it look a lot nicer because there's some spacing. Okay. Let's say that I went one too far. Let's make a new folder, but I need to be back in week 3. Anybody have any ideas on how I can get back to week 3? I want to change my directory. Yeah, exactly, Tuba. But one thing to note is it's not CD space dot dot or CD dot dot, CD space dot dot. I'm changing directory. I have a space, and then dot dot means I'm going to go back 1, right? And you see that I'm in week 3. If I go to lecture 1 and I say CD space dot dot slash dot dot, that's saying I want to go back 2 spaces, and I'm in web fundamentals. And you can do that all the way back until the beginning. Like if I just wanted to do that, right? Now, one thing that is kind of a trick and a tip is if you look, we had to CD a lot, right? CD instruction, CD July Web Fund, CD Lecture 1. Like there's a lot of CD in. Fun fact, if you go to CD tilde, that's just going to take you back to the beginning. So now if I say LS or PWD, sorry, we can see we're back to the beginning. I don't have to do CD every time. I can say CD desktop, Coding Dojo, instruction, July, week 3, lecture 1. I can do it all in one line. So then I can still say I'm here. So instead of having to say CD desktop, CD Coding Dojo, CD instruction, CD July 23rd, CD week 3, CD lecture 1, I could just do CD and then give the entire path. Again, I tabbed. And then if you, like, so let's say CD desktop, Coding Dojo. And if I didn't, like, if I don't know, I just press tab again, and then it tells me what's available. And I could say July, tab again, week 3, lecture 1. Okay. So if there's a space in the folder's name, would it matter when you want to select that folder? Can we do CD Coding Dojo? Yeah. You could do it that way. I would say, especially one thing is I was doing Java and I had a space in my folder name and it rocked my project, or it rocked an assignment I was doing. So I, as you can see, kind of got in the habit of doing like underscores as my folder name. Doesn't look as nice in theory, but it just makes sure that no language kind of messes it up, because I had this for Coding Dojo. It made everything worse. So just being aware of that. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So somebody said to do it that way, you pretty much have to memorize the path, right? So yeah, Lucas, you will get used to it. Like if everything's like, let's say that you had just some sort of like in your desktop, you have some sort of, I have a lot of stuff. But let's say you had like a projects, like just something you wanted to know, then you would get used to saying like CD. You would get used to saying something like CD, desktop, projects. Yeah, or whatever you had. If you had a projects, then you would, it kind of becomes like, oh, I know it's here. But that just comes with time for sure. So if you use Mac Tuba, then you've got to do, this is called an escape character when you have, so I'll show you desktop, Coding Dojo. See this guy right here? This is what we call an escape character. And it just says, hey, forget this, or there's a space right here. So again, if you can, don't have folders because it can kind of mess up in certain languages, even if you have an escape character. But yeah, this basically says, hey, there's a space right here, just a heads up, so that way it can keep going. Okay. Let's go to instruction. Let's go to July. And it is, so for a Mac, it is /JUL. It is case sensitive. I think for Windows, it is not as case sensitive. Like if you do lowercase desktop, it'll work, but for Mac, it won't. Week 3. See, as you can tell, I said this, and it doesn't know that. But if I say TH, now it knows week 3. So it is case sensitive. So please be aware of that. Okay. So if I'm here, I have lecture 1. Let's go ahead and create tomorrow's lecture. So we talked about CD. We were able to navigate. We're able to figure out what a path is. We've navigated. Now let's go ahead and make a new folder. So if we're looking here for Windows, it's the same. So it's just mkdir, that is make a directory. So I'm going to say mkdir, and I'm just going to call this lecture 2. Now, if I say ls, I see I now have lecture 2. So it is mkdir for making a directory. And then I do space, and then I give the directory name. Right? In this case is lecture 2. And then it will make that. Perfect. Any questions on this? I'll pause here. Any questions so far?
I guess I have a quick question. Why is there lecture 1 and then lecture 2 on the line right above?
Right here?
Yeah.
Because I did ls. I said, what is in my week 3 folder? That's where I'm at. What do I have availability to see? And it's I currently have a lecture 1 and a lecture 2 within my week 3 folder. It's the same thing as if I were to come here and see how it says, okay, I'm on week 3, so I'm in WebFun. I say, okay, week 3. And it says, oh, cool, you have access to 2. What do you want to do? And you see that even because I made it on my terminal, it still shows up in my GUI. This is just a visual representation of what this is.
Okay.
So it's the same thing. Yeah, so when I say ls, I'm just saying, hey, I'm in week 3. What do I have access to? And it just shows me these 2 folders.
Oh, okay, because that's what you have available.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm on
So
Windows,
yeah, go ahead.
and I said the NKDIR, and then I said new folder, and it made two new folders, one named new and one named folder. So
Did you do a space?
I did. So
Yeah.
we'll add the space in, or should I just do a like you do an underscore?
No. So that's what we were going to get to. And we can talk about it now. That's fine. Well, first off, let's talk about removing, and then we're going to talk about, and then we'll talk about what happened with you. Is okay. Let's say I wanted to remove this lecture 2. I could say rm-rf lecture 2. Oops. And this is me removing. Now, if I say ls, I just have lecture 1. So I just deleted that folder, right? And I think rm is, or so it's just del for you guys. Now, let's say I wanted to create a lecture 2 and a lecture 3. And in the same way that when we're dealing with a path, we don't want to have to CD multiple times. If I know I want to create multiple folders, you're going to do this if you get to Python or get to MERN or Java. You can just say mkdir. And then if you can give multiple names in the same way that remember how a class or an element can have multiple classes, it's just sort of separated by space. I could say lecture 2 space lecture 3. And this is going to create 2 new folders for me, one called lecture 2 and one called lecture 3. So now if I say ls, I see I have 2 more folders. So that's what happened with you, Thomas, is because you had this space here, it's creating 2 separate folders, lecture or new and then folder. So I would maybe have those all as one word. Or Christina, is there like an escape character for Windows that you could do? Do you know?
For the 2 different ones, I just use the quotes.
Okay, so you could just do something like mkdir new folder.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just use a quote. If you wanted, you have to use quotes if you want it to have a space. Oh yeah, all right.
What was it called when we have capital letter? Camel, what was it? Camel something?
Camel case.
Camel case. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because if it has 3 words, it kind of looks like a camel's humps. Okay. Now, that was our create multiple files. So that was create multiple folders. Now we can also create files. So within our, let's set up tomorrow's lecture. Every class, I don't have anything in there, right? I said ls, there's nothing there. Every class, I've got a class overview MD. It's a markdown file. So what I can do here is I can say touch. And so let's see what that is on Windows. If you're creating a new file, Christina, do you know it off the top of your head?
I saw a few different weird ones with them. Hold on, I was just playing with weird one.
I'm not even seeing touch on this. We'll ask good old Google. We'll use Search Labs. Touch. Terminal command for Windows. Looks like you can. Bard says you can use touch. So we'll see.
I'm also having really good luck with just NI space and then file name.
NI space file name.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for Windows, it's NI. For us on Mac, you can use touch. And then I'm going to say class overview .md, right? That's my file type. But if I wanted to do index.html. I could say touch index.html. And now if I say ls, I see that I have two files here. I've got a class overview and I've got an index.html. Again, I could have done the same thing. Like, let's make a style and a JS by just saying, clear this real fast, by just saying touch style.css main.js. If I just do space and I do both, then if I say that, I now have, it'll create multiple files, multiple individual files. So same sort of thing with mkdir.
I have a question.
Yeah.
MKDIR to create a folder and touch to create a file.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We're making a directory. A directory is a folder, or touch is just, I just want to make a specific file.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Now quiz time. Let's say that I want to navigate into our lecture 3, because we created lecture 3, and I want to create a class overview.md. Is anybody brave enough to tell me what do I need to do in order to do that? I'll do PWD, which is present working directories, kind of where I'm at. I'm at the beginning. My pathway is to here. I give that as like a secret. So what do I need to do? I want to get all the way to here.
CD desktop.
Yep, CD desktop.
And could you go back to that page that gave us
Yep.
the cheat sheet?
Yeah,
And then CD coding dojo.
yeah. Do I need to do CD coding dojo?
If you slash, you don't.
Yeah, perfect. Coding dojo.
Instruction CD.
Yeah,
July 23 web fund.
yeah.
Then week 3.
And then I won't make you do lecture 3 because you showed that you can do it. Week 3. Lecture 3. Perfect. Now, if I want to create my class overview file,
Touch.
class overview. Perfect. Now, if I say ls, I have this. And if I were to look here, I can say, okay, I have all of these files that were created that don't have anything in them, but I've got a JavaScript file, a CSS, an HTML, and a Markdown. And if I navigate here, I've got a Markdown file. Those are the basics of your terminal. Those are really the main things that you're going to need. Now, when we deal with JavaScript, not JavaScript, sorry, Git and GitHub in the cloud, you can do multiple ways. You can utilize GUIs. So now that you know what a GUI is, you can utilize a graphical user interface like the desktop app or through VS Code itself, or you can utilize the terminal. My encouragement is to get familiar with the terminal. Does that mean that you always have to use the terminal? No, right? If you know how to do it, but then you still like a GUI, you can do that. There is an old adage that you should, as a developer, which I don't necessarily agree with, but here we are, that you should be able to navigate your computer and open and do whatever you need on your computer without using a mouse and or key or pad, like the mouse pad or an actual mouse, right? You should be able to do this. You should be able to navigate your entire computer just using your keys. Now, again, I think that that's like a little bro-y, if you ask me. But the whole sentiment is there, right? You still have to be able to utilize the terminal, you have to know certain things. And especially if you're dealing with the cloud, you're going to have to make or do commands on the terminal. So a couple things. Somebody said, can you show how to delete again? Yeah, so we're just going to, let's see, if we RM, that's removing class overview. Because it's a file, I can say RM. If it was a directory, like let's say I wanted to delete lecture 3. Can anybody remember what do I have to type for removing a directory? Removing a folder. So I could use del, but I'm on a Mac. So I could use RM, but remember if I do RM lecture 3, it's going to give me this. Hey, it's a directory. So there was one more thing I have to type in to remove a directory. Yeah, exactly, Seth. RF. And then I say lecture 3. Now if I say ls, it's no longer there. Perfect. Somebody asks, how do you specify each type of file? Anytime we say class or we say touch, we give the file name and then we have this dot. This dot and then whatever's after that is what specifies the file type. So whenever I said .css or .js, the computer already knows that because it ends in a .js that it's a JavaScript file, or a .css, it's a CSS file. In the same way that if you've got a file that is like a car.jpg, it knows that this JPEG is an image, right? So that's how, or like .pdf, so it's a type of PDF. So that's just whatever's after the file name indicates the file type. Great question.
Hey, Will.
Glory, yeah, hey Joshua.
I was just wondering, how do you move up in the folders? Like, CD moves down into a folder. How do you move back up?
Yeah, so you would just do CD space and then dot. Goes back 1. So see, I was at week 3. Now I'm back up this way. Or I could do multiple where I say CD space / slash / slash / and now I'm back at my desktop. So I'm navigating the other way. Great question. So the dot and then the slash, the dot is saying, okay, go up 1, then the next one, then the next one, and now I'm back to desktop. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Somebody said, there's lots of great questions, and I would encourage you guys to kind of mess around with this. Again, PWD for us is present working directory. I can clear, I can remove. Excuse me, if I want to just leave it, I just put exit or Control D. For us, or just exit. So like if I just say, you can get pretty into it to where you are writing stuff where you say like echo and you echo something into a file. So like, let's say that I wanted everything to always say like, welcome to class. And I wanted it, I can say, I can do that. That's a little bit more advanced for what we're dealing with right now. But you can, so yeah, you can update names, you can edit, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. So I would encourage you guys to look at this. You won't have to deal with really any of that. You just really need to know sort of CD, mkdir, removing a file, looking at where you're currently at, or what you have available, what you have available, and then creating a new file. But there's lots of stuff. So we haven't even scratched the surface, right, of things that we can do in order for this, you know, for us to kind of navigate this stuff. And Carrie, that's a great point. This is your basic terminal for Mac, but there's so many different types out there. So if you really get into it, like Medium is like a blog site kind of. It's a blog site that people like in tech and lots of stuff can utilize. So you might see a lot of articles on Medium. But oftentimes there's like the best terminals of 2023. And so you can Google or YouTube best terminals of 2023. And there's a whole bunch of different third-party terminals that give different things. You can make it look a certain way. You can, do lots of fun things. You can do different colors. I'm pretty basic. I just think this looks fine. But you can kind of make this your own if you wanted to.
I have a question. The only thing I didn't understand was the difference between DEL-RF and RM-RF. They're not the same thing, are they?
DEL-RF.
To delete.
Yeah, to delete Christina. I think it's Del Tree would be the same. Correct. If I'm deleting a folder, Christina, sorry, I don't have a Windows.
Let me go test it out. I have a test folder going right now.
I think it's Del Tree would be the same thing as the RM space RF.
Oh, so in Windows, let's say we use DEL by itself. We don't have to do use the -RF to delete a folder. We just put DEL and then the folder name.
So DEL is going to remove a file. So remember how let's say that I've got so if I say touch test.html, if I say rm text, this will remove the file. But if I go back and I wanted lecture 3 deleted, if I say rm lecture 3, it's going to say that, hey, this is a directory I can't. This is where on a folder, on a directory, I need to say rm space rf lecture 3. Then if I say this, then it deletes it. So only on a folder do I do something like this. And I believe this does work. I've definitely used this on Windows. That's a lie. I have used this on Windows to delete an entire folder.
Yeah, I just used RM on it. It just asked me if I wanted to delete the whole folder, so you can definitely use RM.
Okay, so on Bash or Mac or Linux, it won't let you, but sounds like on Windows you can. By just doing RM.
And the RF actually deletes the entire folder,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
while RM just removes a single file.
exactly.
Okay.
So what we'll be able to do is navigate, and we're going to talk about GitHub tomorrow because we're out of time, which is great. That's fine. These last 2 weeks are sort of very malleable, and I just wanted, this is not as important as GitHub, but like equally, right? Like it's part 1 of a 2-part important thing. So just wanted to make sure you guys really understand. Are there any other questions on the terminal? We got 1 minute left, but happy to stay for a second if you need.
I guess I have
Any
a
other
question. I guess I have
Yeah,
a
of
question
course.
for this for Windows. I don't know if you can do that on here since you have a Mac. Back to I think it was Lucas who asked this. For the Dell question, I just wanted to make sure we get that answer. If it wasn't, you do the Dell. Do you still have to do the -RF? I think Christina, you tested this out because I think you also have a Windows too.
Yeah, so there's a really cool one. I'm gonna put it in the chat, and it was RM dash just capital R, and it did the same thing as RF.
Oh, but do you have to put the folder name as well, or you just do -R?
Yeah,
Yeah, you gotta
dash
do the
R and the folder name. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
it's in chat. Yeah, so RM dash uppercase R, and then let's say if if it was lecture 3, then you can remove it that way.
Okay. So you don't have to do del dash R, right? Or is del just
Mm-mm.
remove a single file?
Single file,
Oh, okay. And then you don't have to
just
do
like we did with RM.
okay, so you don't have to do del tree dash R folder name.
It
You just do del
it
tree.
seems like you don't. Yeah, it seems like you don't, because Christina has Windows and was able to do RM dash R, uppercase R. folder name.
Okay, because I also have Windows, so I'm just checking whether you have to do del tree dash R for entire that, or
Nope.
you just do del tree for a folder. But I guess you just have to do. You could do RM dash R folder name for
Yeah.
for a folder deletion.
Yeah, Christina just tested that.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions, my friends? I know today was a very different class, but these are important things to know and understand, because we are going to use them moving forward. And then tomorrow, when we talk about Git and GitHub, and we actually kind of walk through it, it's going to be an important thing for us to know, for sure. Any other questions? Yeah, and it's a practice thing and something that you play with. You can make terminal games, which is fun, which is great, like to navigate and like, oh, if they type in stuff, you can definitely do that, which is a really fun thing to practice. I guess somebody put tomorrow ? Does that mean for GitHub, or what are you asking? I'm not quite sure what you're asking. For office hour. What?
Sorry about that. Can you hear
Very
me?
good. Yeah, what are you asking?
Oh yeah, I was asking, so tomorrow's gonna be class or like office hour?
For
Or like tomorrow? Are you saying tomorrow as in Thursday or tomorrow?
tomorrow?
am I-
Tomorrow? If I would've- I'm sorry.
I know,
just
I'm
repeat
sorry.
that.
I'm
No,
sorry.
you're
I
good.
guess.
No, tomorrow as in tomorrow, and then if I would say Thursday, it'd be Thursday. Are you asking for when are we going over GitHub? Sorry, I'm just. Or what are
No,
you
I
asking?
I was just making sure the class is, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. But thank you for
Classes both.
okay.
Yeah,
But
we will
tomorrow, okay.
always have, moving forward, you will always have class Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, unless there's like a holiday. But you will always have class Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And you can also go here and it'll always tell you when we have class.
I see.
But these are your
Thank
3
you.
days. Yeah, of course. Of course. Any other things, friends? All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. And we will talk to you soon. Take care.